Right, welcome back. Let's continue with more news now. NaShe is a short, intriguing and captivating story that highlights the most defining moments of the author's life. The book takes you on an enlightening journey that helps you to accept some of the drawbacks and failures that might have occurred in one's own life. Also, Tinashe Mujera joins us in studio to tell us a little bit more about her offering. Tinashe, good morning, and thank you for your time with the SABC at this hour.
Good morning, Lisa, and thank you for having me.
Firstly, congratulations on putting your thoughts to paper.
Thank you.
I know that was not an easy feat, but here you stand.
Yeah.
The title, NaShe, talk to us about how that came about. What does it mean for you?
So NaShe is actually Shona, an African language, and NaShe means with God. It's derived from my name Tinashe, which means God is with us, and that's how I came about the title, because the story is basically about my own life, story and the seasons I went through and how I navigated through them.
The world seems to be upside down a little bit. You speak about overcoming your own challenges.
Yeah.
Perhaps we could backtrack and look at your social upbringing, your cultural upbringing, the influences that might have happened that constituted to your background.
Yeah. So I grew up in Zimbabwe. So I'm a Shona girl. And of course, the environment, society there is totally different. But I would like to say that a lot of people can resonate, because the biggest thing that I talk about here is the father wound. And I realized that as I come across different women of different races, especially in the African continent, I realize a lot of women resonate with issues to do with the father wound. And they're all bleeding because of the father. Yeah.
Perhaps you could unpack a little bit more from your lived experience. How did also writing your thoughts down help you understand the narratives and the stories you had about that wound itself?
So growing up, I grew up in a family that was quite stable, but my dad was an abusive man. And by abusive, I mean emotionally, physically. It was quite hectic, and growing up in that sort of space as a child was traumatic. And I vowed in my heart at that time, Liesl, that I will never, ever get married to a man like this. And what I did there was I vowed in my heart, but I didn't make a conscious effort to heal from that. Now, growing up and into my adult life, I came across a similar man. And because I had not healed from it, but I'd vowed against that, I attracted similar. So what you vow against and not heal from, you attract unconsciously. And I found myself in the same space until I got to a place of healing.
And so speak about that place of healing, and what was that turning point for you?
I think after I went through the abuse that I saw my mom go through again, I'm like, what is happening here? Why does this seem to be a cycle, and why does this thing continue to repeat and is a repetitive thing? I don't want my daughter to go through the same thing. I need to do something about. And I realized that when I grew up, what I only did was, I will never do this. But I never took a conscious effort to go back into the trauma, the pain, the bitterness, the anger I carried from what my father did, and actually heal from that step by step. So it took a step of self-awareness. And I always say to people, the first step to healing is self-awareness. You have to look internally. You have to look at all that's happening on the outside, but what does it mean for you on the inside?
Hurt people hurt people.
That's right.
Did you manage to speak to your dad? Did you get his perspective? Who hurt him? And how was that information able to assist you in your own healing journey?
Unfortunately, Liesl, that was the unfortunate part, was that he passed on. And I didn't realize that I was angry at my dad in death. So I couldn't get the answers that I hoped to get from him in person. But of course, speaking to some of my uncles and really asking how he grew up, what life looked like in his own space, in his head space. What was his perspective towards life? How did he grow up? What was life like for him? And I realized that, it's like when Jesus was on the cross, and I know we just passed Easter now, and he says, "Forgive them, Father, for they do not know what they are doing." And I think we all need to come to that place of, forgive them for they do not know, because like you said, hurt people, but sometimes hurt people don't even know that they're hurt because they grew up with this thing. And that self-awareness I'm talking about was never a reality to them until death.
And so different tools help us to navigate that, and perspective and shifts in consciousness as well. Perhaps in this offering, if people pick up this book, what do you want them to walk away with? What's the crux of the matter for you?
At the end of the day, and after all has been said and done, people talk about therapy. We all go for therapy. We see psychologists. We exercise. We read self-help books. at the end of the day, Lizelle, we need God. He's the one that created us. He's the one that brought me here. And he's the one that knows what my life story looks like and ought to be. And that's where I got my healing from at the end of it all.
If people want to buy the book, interact with you, I mean, how do they also go about doing that? How do you keep that conversation going? I mean, healing is also layered. And so whilst this perhaps represents one chapter,
That's right.
what does this next chapter look like for you as well?
So I have a Facebook group called NaShe. I also have a podcast called Faith in Action. And in Faith in Action, we talk about healing, we talk about transformation and empowering. And that's the podcast where I get to talk about all the chapters in the book, but bring guests in that also have gone through similar and share their own personal stories and their journey. And so the story continues, because remember, healing is evolving. Yeah. Transformation is an evolving journey. We don't get healed and it's done now. Yeah. We continue to evolve in it. We continue to grow and transform, because we navigate different seasons as we grow older as well. And life changes. So we ought to be prepared for all of these things. And hence I say it's an evolving journey. So Faith in Action podcast is where I talk about it all.
Sometimes courage is not brute might or strength. It's simply just speaking your truth. Yeah. Thank you for sharing your truth with us. And we are wishing you all the best on your future endeavors. Thank you for also adding to the story South Africa's and restoring South Africa's agency at large. Tinashe Mujera, author of NaShe. It's a book about her journey to healing, transformation, and restoration at large.